What's done is done and can never, ever, ever, ever be undone. Especially when it comes to the bookies, because that's why they ask you all those questions saying, are you sure you understand the bet that you're placing right now, the money that you're spending right now, and that you're in a financial situation where you can actually spend this money? They ask you all these types of questions when you make a relatively large bet, apparently. I'm not privy to these things because I don't frequent the bookies on a regular basis, but I made the biggest bet of my life this week, and it was for Spurs to win the Champions League this year. And I got odds of 16-1, which is quite long. It's not extreme, but it's pretty big. Even though I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the season they were probably up there at 25, so this could have been a much larger bet, but I suppose I didn't really have the balls to actually go and make the bet. I did want to make a bet on the Premier League though, but the odds just kept shortening and shortening, and at the beginning of the season it was like 40-1, 35-1, and by the time I wanted to bet, it was like 18, and I said, nah. I'd rather take Champions League odds than the Premier League at that moment in time. So, I put a £500 bet for Spurs to win the Champions League at 16-1. And the funny thing is, when I made the bet, the bookies took it, and they had to call head office for some reason. They said, we're just trying to put this bet through. And they came back to me and said, so the odds have just been slashed to 14-1. And I said, no. On the machine, it said 16. It says 16 on the app right now. Unless my bet has swayed it so that it's 14, I want 16-1. They came back and they said, head office said £500 is the maximum, because I wanted to put on 501. They said 500 is the maximum. I said, well, fine, then give me 500 at 16-1. And then I looked on the app a minute later, and the odds had been slashed to 14-1. So, I do think a lot of people think Spurs might be a surprise team this year. In the Premier League, in the Champions League. And because of that, and me being, a bit of an idiot, I decided to plug that money in. Also, I do feel we have a pretty good chance this year. The best chance we've had in, I would say, 5 years, since 2017. That was the last time I really thought, 16-17, maybe 17-18, that we could actually win something. Even though we ended up in the Champions League final in 18-19 when we were playing like dog shit. But this season, I'm feeling it. If Son, Kane and Kulusevski can get firing, and today, Son scored a damn hat-trick. People have been saying, oh, he's not been scoring, he looks timid, he looks shy, he looks like he's got no confidence. He comes on, off the bench, and scores a hat-trick in 14-15 minutes. That's just what the guy is capable of. The problem is, in some ways, Conte might look at it and say, so this is what you can do off the bench. So we're going to keep you on the bench, because if you can do that on a regular basis, then we're going to win something if you can score 2-3 goals when you come on consistently. It is kind of a double-edged sword when you come on and do well as a sub, because in some ways it makes them think, oh, you can come off the bench, you shouldn't be starting. And in other ways it makes the player think, I should be starting because this is what I can do. But the way Conte plays, I don't think it really suits Son for 90 minutes. It's very odd. I think the way he's got them running, the way he's really making them expend all of their energy, I think maybe Son coming on in the 50th, 60th minute might be the play. It might be the thing that gets him a ton of goals, because everyone else is tired at that point and he can come on and be that impact player. At the same time, Kulusevski can do that role as well. I just think Son is a significantly better finisher than Kulusevski. So because of that, Conte might be thinking, I'm going to either play Son or Kulusevski in every game. But I don't think I can play them both, because I want one of them to be able to come off the bench and make that change in a game. And I don't think Richarlison can do that, and Kane's obviously not going to be dropped. So I do think it's probably between Son and Kulusevski as to who's starting in most games, unless Richarlison is going to be more of a second striker than a left winger or a right winger. But this is all to say, make good financial decisions. I generally do. In most cases, I do. I'm not a heavy gambler, even though I do work in the financial industry to some degree. And you make your money wherever you can, So if you can see where a stock has come off, then you do what you do. But sometimes you're wrong. Most of the time, you're right, but sometimes you're wrong. And with this, while I do feel I've done enough technical analysis to be able to make this type of bet, I do also acknowledge that it is outright gambling, and it could blow up in my face. And that's 500 quid I could not get back. But at the same time, if I win, that's 8.5 grand I'm getting. That's substantial monies. So yeah, just to say, be responsible, but also, when you think you got something, and you just want to do it, just go and fucking do it. I know it's balls to the wall, I know it's crazy, mad lad tendencies, but occasionally, live on the edge.